My next guest believes that motherhood is synonymous with leadership, and that is something to celebrate. Today's Studio 5 contributor Shima Baughman shines the spotlight on 5 female leaders who have a few things in common. They are all mothers who have made a significant mark, and they all inspire the rest of us to lean into our own leadership opportunities. Hi, Shima. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. You too.
It's a fun day, isn't it? To pause and honor all motherly influences. I love it.
It's exhausting for the husbands and kids. They're always like, oh, man.
Is it though? Because I think I'm still making dinner. What about you?
No, I'm not making dinner. I just sit on the couch. They're all like scrambling around. It's hilarious.
You're like,
I love it.
This is my
it's
day.
The one day, yeah.
Comedy plus.
Maybe my birthday, but that's it.
Celebration. That's awesome. As we look over these women, I mean, you are someone who has really somewhat diverse circles. I admire the way you connect with different women, and I bet you yourself are always inspired by the type of women who cross your path.
Oh, so many. I mean, I had to come up with 5 women that I really admired, but it's like, I have hundreds. Like, I can think of so many women that I know personally. And I tried to actually, when I thought of like who I would talk about as far as like, let's think of 5 women that we want to honor, kind of mostly people that had passed on or kind of like, are really prominent in our area, but I could say like all of my friends. I could go down the list of my closest friends and say,
sure,
I admire this about her and that. I mean, so many good women. I know you have a similar circle of just incredible women that you admire, and I learned so much from.
Same.
Yes. Yeah.
First on your list is a religious scholar who you describe as a builder.
Yes, Melissa Inouye just recently passed away. She was a mother, an author, a builder. I mean, she just talked about Zion, building Zion in this beautiful way of kind of like recognizing our flaws. And I don't know if you have a quote. There's this like beautiful quote she gave us, just in her book. She wrote a book, and then she kind of compiled some essays. But her big point was just kind of like, it takes imperfect people. And she says like, building Zion is like, stacking a lot of chairs and showing up when, people aren't prepared. And it's just, we're kind of like all imperfect little tools, but that's Zion. She's like, that's not working towards Zion, that is Zion. And so I love her idea of that, because I think sometimes in our work or home, or we're always just like, but if I could only have it go to this level, then we'll be in a good spot. And it's just, she's just like, no, like this is it. Just
this is it.
Yeah, this us trying. And I just think it's very hopeful, because you're like, sometimes you look at your home and you're like, and Mother's Day for some people can be a little sad and like, like I'm just like, what am I getting at? I'm not as good as X, Y, and Z. Other moms I see, I think a lot of women struggle with that. And then, but I think Melissa Inouye would say, no, like you're building it. This is you. It's in your messy house, in your, dinner that's Little Caesars again, right? Like that's it. That's Zion. I just love it.
To think of building as an extension of leadership or motherhood, I think is really beautiful, because I can speak for myself in the vein of efficiency. Sometimes we're in divide and conquer mode. But to think of this is it, and how am I going to use what I have? I was actually so struck. I was sad when she passed away. I never had the chance to meet her, but I was so struck by the way people honored her and her messaging.
That's right.
She left a mark.
She did leave a mark. And I actually had the opportunity, I didn't get to go to her address, but she spoke at this conference I was at just a few weeks before she passed. And I just thought, how neat. I mean, she must have been not feeling great, right? If she's about to pass away. But she took her time, she went, and she was kind of in like warm clothes. I mean, just the fact that she showed up and just really wanted to share this message of like peace building was the message she gave at this conference. But just such a great builder of our community in Utah and elsewhere. So
Ardith Kapp is another woman who recently passed away that left such a warm mark. And you make the point that she was an authentic woman even before authenticity wasn't celebrated or even widely accepted.
She just like invented, kind of authenticity. She also talked a lot about grace in days where it wasn't as popular. I think nowadays grace is a really big message, right? We talk a lot about grace, but she was just kind of like, you're not doing this, like it's not your time, like the Lord will fill in the gaps, just kind of keep going. And she actually wasn't a mother, which was interesting. She was married and was, kind of a mother to the young women of the church for several years, but never had children of her own, and was kind of a mother to other women.
She
not
saw
just her
those
own.
young women of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as her girls, and she helped through the statement that she formed. She made that young woman motto. She created that, and the way that shaped and defined so many lives, so many of her daughters' lives was really sweet.
I just love that, because I think there's more women now that are out there just talking about imperfection and kind of bold, and I think she was just like before her time, kind of like a little bit revolutionary.
A trailblazer.
Yes, a trailblazer.
Kathleen Johnson Eyring made your list, and her daughter shared an excerpt from a journal or a letter that she had found where Kathleen said this: "I am grateful that the Lord has answered our prayers in behalf of our children. I know that every blessing they receive comes from our Father in heaven and his Son, Jesus Christ. Because I know that," she said, "it is easy for me to feel gratitude." Because I know that, it's easy for me to feel gratitude. I know that the blessings they receive come from God after I have done all that I can for them. She was a woman of deep gratitude.
That's right. And she passed away in 2023 as well, and left this kind of legacy of gratitude. And I think a great story, her daughter, Mary, who's a professor at BYU as well, shares the story of she had this little note that her mom wrote her, just said, "Mary, you light up my life." Like something you write to your kids. And she said she carried it around with her for 10 years. Like it was just all across, moving everywhere. And I just think it just kind of gave me pause thinking about mothers and Mother's Day. Like, do we have that kind of gratitude? Like, can I channel that kind of gratitude in those little moments of like the little note that they leave, the cards that the kids will all bring home from school, or any of those tiny little moments, because it was lasting for her. And I think sometimes as a mother, personally, I look at all the things I'm not doing and that I'm failing in, and I, instead of focusing on this, like, what about that moment though? That was so sweet. And I think that, Mary's story of keeping that over 10 years, it really kind of brings that home. It's like, let's have gratitude for just those little moments.
Yes, and gratitude is the mark of such a strong leader.
Yes.
Gail Miller made your list, and she is a woman of such great legacy.
Amazing. And I love the way, anytime she gets in front of an audience, she talks about generosity and giving, and that's her legacy. That's her plan, is to just give as much as she can. And she describes like when it really hit her and Larry how important it was to give. And she said they were kind of poor, and he was playing softball and they're driving across country and they run out of gas. And someone stops and helps pay for their gas. And they're like, "What can we do? How do we pay you back?" And he's like, "Don't pay me back. We're okay." And he walks away. And then she says he like kind of comes back and is like, "Wait, next time you see someone out of gas, give them gas." Kind of. And I think it just marked in her mind of like, okay, that's how we build a life. That's how we build a legacy, is by giving.
Is by serving. Her husband was often quoted, and she has quoted this often as kind of a pillar of their characteristic and their family foundation and focus on service. Go about doing good until there is too much good in the world. And she also often quotes Winston Churchill, who said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." They embody that.
They do. And I love, and I think at this point in her later years, she's trying to build other younger people and trying to get them to have the same philanthropic spirit that she has. And
like Ashley Smith.
Exactly like
our
Ashley
final
Smith.
woman who kind of is taking that torch, that community torch. What do you admire about Ashley?
Oh, I just think, so she's kind of more of a quiet leader, which as we've talked about over the series, that is beautiful too. She's not the loudest person in the room, but she's built on her own, kind of this Smash Dance Academy. And I think it's a really neat place because what she focuses on is trying to create a kind of new dance culture, right? Not some of the things she saw in her world. And a lot of my friends who have danced have
It's
seen.
not competitive. She doesn't promote
It's not
the competition.
competitive. It's not toxic. It's not about your body and kind of body image stuff. It's about, she makes everyone feel loved. And I asked a couple friends recently that have their kids go there. And I'm like, "What do you think about this?" And she's like, "Oh, all the kids love it. Kids just love her." And she just kind of radiates love and joy to these kids. And that's why they want to be there. They feel loved. And, any competitive dancer would tell you that's not usually what they have felt going to these things. Right. Or any competitive athlete, right? The coaches are not necessarily, exuding love all the time.
It's not the driver, but for her it is. And all of these women in their own way kind of demonstrating these characteristics of good leaders. And I love just that thought, Shima, as you've pointed our hearts and minds this direction, that motherhood is leadership.
That's right.
In so many different forms and facets.
And I think one of the things Ashley does well is kind of something sometimes you admire things about people that you don't necessarily do. She has this quote talking about, how she likes to notice the bumblebees and the roses and the rainbows. And she really does that well. And I feel like one of my experiences with her, the first time I met her, she was at a friend's house at a party, and it was one of those parties where everyone's standing around talking. And at that point, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I had broken my hip. So I couldn't even, I like barely got there. Like we drove in the car, I went and plopped right on the couch. And she's sitting there very deep in conversation with a friend. And if it was me, honestly, I saw someone sat down, I was just on my phone, I wasn't like trying to be like, "Hey guys." But she she kind of stops their conversation, like includes me for the next, like whatever long we sat there, probably
Pulls
30
you right
minutes.
in.
Pulled me right in.
Yeah.
How are you? Who are you? You know, and I just was like, it really always touched me. I'm like, I want to be that. I want to be better at noticing people around me. Because sometimes I'll get in a conversation, it's like, I
Sure.
don't see anything.
Sure, you put the blinders on, but be the connector.
Yes, just to be the one that connects. And so I just always love that about her. And, you know, I'm sure she has tons of stories like that. I'm sure there are lots of people.
Oh, well, we could add you to this list, and I'm sure many of the women that watch
you
this
as
show.
well.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Thanks.